Good morning, Western Slope. Happy Tuesday. I'm Dalen Brazelton. Let's talk about your weather. Folks, we're seeing a lovely day set aside for this Tuesday across western Colorado. The Centennial State seeing a slight uptick in wind, and really that's the only difference between today and yesterday. We're still waiting on that sun to rise on America's Mattress Live Tower Cam, but once it does, we're expecting a pretty lovely one before some cloud coverage starts to push in for the afternoon. We're continuing that dry week, not really seeing any chances of precipitation until maybe the weekend, and even that doesn't seem too incredibly likely. And unseasonably warm temperatures, well, that has definitely been the name of the game lately. We're waking up right now to 28 degrees in Grand Junction, as well as Nucla. Then you got Paonia close to 30 degrees, Montrose and Delta in the mid-20s, Glade Park seeing those mid-30s. We're a little all over the place right now, but we're expected to kind of coalesce, come together as that sun starts to rise and warm things up. This is a part of a bigger warming trend across the western United States, as we're just seeing widespread above average temperatures. This is pushing all the way from the Pacific Northwest down into parts of Texas and Oklahoma. As we head into tomorrow, that start to decrease a little bit for the south and then start to push a little bit more towards the east to the north, covering most of Minnesota as well, as that Pacific Northwest starting to decrease a little bit in temperature as some more moisture pushes in there. You may notice though that subtropical jet stream that's continuing to push a lot of the warm temperatures through Colorado. That polar jet stream that's usually responsible for some of the cooler air, that is concentrated almost completely out of the United States. For that classroom forecast, that first bell's ringing at 27 degrees and sunny skies. We're kind of seeing the inverse of what we saw yesterday with that cloud coverage, where we're starting sunny, and then as we head into the afternoon, we'll start to see a bit of an uptick in that cloud coverage. It's not going to be anything too terribly crazy, but you'll definitely notice a little bit more clouds this afternoon, as well as after school activities. Once again, seeing at 53 degrees. That's going to be your high for the day, happening around 3 p.m., but the whole afternoon will be covered in 50 degrees, starting at about 1 o'clock, and then the morning hours a little chillier than yesterday, mid-20s for the morning before we get out of that freezing range around 9 o'clock. For that Cozy Cat forecast, we got Spotty and Baby hanging out with us underneath the Christmas tree today, and it's going to be a lovely morning to hang out with your cat a little bit longer. Take a look at these cozy conditions. 26 degrees at 7 a.m., mostly clear conditions, and then as we head into the rest of the day, well, things kind of start to clear up from there, and then we start to see that breeze die down once again. 6 miles an hour for the morning, and then things kind of start to be negligible by the afternoon. A lot of wind though, that's kind of been the big story. Some of these areas near Wyoming and Montana could be getting up to 100 miles an hour. Meanwhile, down closer to the passes over here, we're seeing significant wind speeds anywhere from that 50 to 60, maybe even 70 miles an hour for some ranges. So just make sure you're exercising some caution. We're seeing high wind warnings in effect for the central mountains. This is going to be in effect until Thursday morning. So if you're doing any traveling for the midweek over to the Front Range, just keep that in mind. We're also seeing some fire weather warnings all across the Front Range as well. So these two things combined means that we might see red flag warnings issued in the middle of December, which is quite interesting. Over on the western slope, though, we are seeing some very calm conditions as far as the wind is concerned, staying pretty calmly into those single-digit wind speeds all day long. Nothing really getting too crazy. The Gunnison Basin maybe seeing a slight uptick, but really that's about it that you can expect for your day today. As we take a look ahead of that Discovery Auto Group 7-day forecast, we're seeing those mid-50s up today and a very distinct cooling trend from there before we jump up in temperature once again for Friday. Same goes for Montrose. A little bit cooler today, though, seeing about 50 degrees before we see mid-50s tomorrow. Kind of all over the place for the Uncompahgre. But one thing is consistent is that it's cloudy and it's going to be incredibly warm.